Welcome to our presentation on proteins. This presentation was completed by Akemi Nguyen and Desiree Giles. It summarizes information presented in Marie Boyle's textbook, Personal Nutrition, Chapter 6. The composition of proteins is similar to fats and carbohydrates in that they all consist of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Proteins are different because they are composed of nitrogen. Amino acids make up the structure of protein. An amino acid consists of three components: an amine group, an acid group, and a chemical side group. When a protein is synthesized, the amine group bonds to the acid group of another amino acid through a peptide bond. When they bond, the chains do not remain straight. Instead, the amino acids are attracted to each other, forming a coil shape. The coil tangles, then forms a globular shape. The final structure of a protein differs based on its function. For example, proteins that provide strength and elasticity coil together, while those that transport remain hollow so they can store and carry minerals. Amino acids are classified as non-essential or essential. Non-essential amino acids are those the body can produce when it has the necessary amounts of nitrogen, carbohydrates, and fats. Essential amino acids are those that the body cannot produce and must be obtained through food. Proteins serve three main functions: growth and maintenance, regulatory, and energy production. Proteins are required so that amino acids can create new tissue. This is particularly important for a developing fetus. Proteins also help repair damaged tissue. For example, if you sustain a cut, platelets interact with proteins to form fibrin. Fibrin attracts more blood cells and platelets until a clot is formed and the bleeding stops. Finally, proteins are needed to replace old cells once they wear out. There are several examples of how proteins help with regulatory functions. First, enzymes, which are proteins, help facilitate chemical reactions such as digestion. Second, hormones that are proteins help deliver messages to body structures that are responsible for regulatory functions. For example, when blood glucose rises, hormones send messages to the pancreas to generate insulin. Third, proteins help to build antibodies. Antibodies help fend off invaders. Those that suffer from protein deficiency will also have immunity challenges. The fourth regulatory function of proteins is to help maintain fluid balance. Proteins retain water, so it helps maintain balance within cells as well as within the space between cells. Similarly, proteins in the blood help maintain blood volume. Next, proteins help to maintain pH level. Blood helps to get rid of acids and bases by carrying them to the organs that are responsible for excretion. The proteins in the blood act as buffers from these contents so they do not affect the blood's pH level. Finally, the proteins help with transportation. For example, the proteins in the sodium-potassium pump bring in potassium from outside the cell and deposit the sodium from within to outside of the cell. The final function of proteins is to produce energy. In order for proteins to complete all the other functions just described, there must be sufficient calories from carbohydrates and fats to power the cells. If there is too much amino acid, they are removed and converted to sugar or fat for energy storage. If there is not enough amino acid, blood, muscle, and skin tissue are broken down so that their amino acids can be used for more essential organs such as the lungs, heart, and brain. There are 4 steps in the process of digestion and absorption. First, we chew and soften the protein in our mouth. Second, the stomach acid denatures the proteins. Here, enzymes begin to break the proteins down. Next, the small intestine continues this process until nearly all are strands of single or chain amino acids. The cells on the surface of the intestine split the peptides into amino acids, absorb them, and release them into blood. The receiving cells then use what they need. Finally, the large intestine carries unused proteins out of the body. To ensure optimal protein intake, follow these guidelines. First, consumed proteins should contain at least the 9 essential amino acids. This can be done by eating complementary proteins such as fish with legumes or bread with peanut butter. 1/3 of protein should be animal-based and 2/3 should be plant-based. Finally, it is essential to consume enough carbohydrates and fats so that proteins can perform their duties. The following guidelines are intended for healthy adults. The Dietary Reference Intake advises that proteins should account for 10 to 35% of your daily total caloric intake. Another guideline is that you should eat 0.8 grams of protein for every 2.2 pounds of ideal body weight. The recommendation is based on ideal weight because lean body mass, not fat, requires protein. In this example, an adult male whose ideal weight is 160 pounds should be eating approximately 57.6 grams of protein a day. Legumes is basically dried beans and peas, which beans and peas, they are a good source for protein. Not just protein, but also for iron if you have low iron, and they rich in B vitamins and fiber. When the kitchen tries to eat small portion when fixing you plate for dinner. When having lunch, you don't have to have a big portion for lunch as would for dinner. But try to pack your lunch such as having fresh fruit to snack on while having a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Most food allergies include seafood, peanuts, milk, etc. Some allergies reaction are sneezing and an allergic reaction, which means as soon as an allergic reaction happens, they are usually rushed to the hospital. Vegetarian are people who really do not eat meat. Pollo are people who eat plants, foods, and poultry. Semi-is are people who eat groups of animals, but not all animals. Vegan only eat food from plant sources. The information presented in this presentation is covered under fair use because it was a small portion of a textbook and was used for educational purposes. The presentation was created by the presenters without financial benefit. This presentation did not affect the original commercial value of the textbook. Thank you for watching this presentation, and we hope that you have a better understanding of the structure and function of proteins as well as how to consume them.